You're a little camera shy, aren't you?
Well, sometimes, but you know, I'm getting the hang of it. Yeah.
Oftentimes here on Staunch TV, I make the claim that a certain film was made before its time. Now, whether or not I'm right about those is up for debate, I guess. However, with tonight's pick, there really is no doubt.
The Great White Hype!
We are almost done with our journey into the Wayans verse. Playlist in description. And with tonight's pick, The Great White Hype, man, I had one hell of a time rewatching this one. It really does take me straight back to that time in the mid to late 90s, you know, where movies like this were not only still made, but were made often. And really, most times were flops, you know. Same with The Great White Hype, sadly, even though this film really did have everything going for it. Now, I'll explain. But first, let's go through the plot for any traitors out there who haven't seen it. The boxing industry is in the dumps and won't last much longer unless the formidable promoter known as the Sultan, played perfectly by Samuel L. Jackson, can figure out a way to build some hype. That's when he decides to put the unstoppable champion James Grim Reaper Roper, played by Wayans, against a virtual nobody largely based on skin color, a boxer named Terry Conklin, who is not a pro. A role filled here by Peter Berg, who is just exquisite. What follows is a hilarious satirical romp that perfectly takes from its contemporaries in order to turn the genre on its head and even poke fun at its own audience. Or that's what I think, at least. Turns out, a lot of people really don't like this movie.
I have to admit this movie fooled me and disappointed me at the same time. It started out so satirical and funny, I thought it was going to do for boxing what This Is Spinal Tap did for rock and roll. It really starts well, but then the movie loses its way. The characters get needlessly shuffled, the plot turns from satire into sitcom, and then the movie's big payoff seems so confused and unsatisfactory, it's like the last reel of the film is missing. The performances are on target, and the idea of a behind-the-scenes boxing movie is terrific, but The Great White Hype doesn't deliver.
But when I say the film had everything going for it, well, I mean, let's check it out. The director, Reginald Hudlin, well, he was already established in the black film community, if you will, producing classics like Bebe's Kids and even creating House Party. And we can clearly see that he was comfy with these ensemble black comedies of the 90s and was capable of gaining legitimate stars for his films, which we see on full display here in The Great White Hype. And this being Tarantino's 90s, he also managed to have that ever-popular flair that studios were looking for, you know, without exactly feeling like a rip-off. Hell, he even managed to snag Sam Jackson fresh off of Pulp Fiction, something they naturally make a reference to.
Vincent, how you doing, baby? You see Jules? How's everything? All right, good to see you.
The film was also fairly relevant with its satire, as it itself was also based on an actual boxing match.
Oh, Tyson with a left hook, a right uppercut, down goes McNeely again.
Steve, he's very hurt. He can barely stand.
And we see a lot of strange connections and even some kind of like pseudo reunions when regarding the cast. For instance, we get Wayans and Fox in a film together after being in A Living Color. Wayans and Goldblum, who were also in Earth Girls Are Easy, and Goldblum and Jackson, well, they previously starred in Jurassic Park, and Jackson and Fox appear together in Django Unchained, which director Reginald Hudlin produced. Strange, that Tarantino connection. And perhaps the film's biggest asset was the writer and creator of the project, Tony Hendra. The Great White Hype, while still satire, did wind up quite different than Hendra's script. However, it remains a semi-strong satire because of him, in my opinion. Tony Hendra was actually involved with the original National Lampoon crew, producing their early films, and appearing in Spinal Tap to boot. It would be his time in Spinal Tap, where he played manager Ian Faith, that would inspire him to do a similar kind of spoof on the boxing world. And he uses connections to get the script going, mainly the help of sports photographer Neil Lafer, who was kind of getting involved in film at the time. And it would be Neil who snatched up the highly sought-after writer Ron Shelton, who wrote sports classics like, White Men Can't Jump and Bull Durham, which, was a good and bad idea depending on who you're talking to getting him on board. Fun fact, White Men Can't Jump is actually one of my all-time favorite movies. No bullshit. But control of the project would soon evade Hindra, and he would see his script begin to drastically change. No longer having much focus on the fighters themselves, but mainly, a lot more mixed in elements to add more humor and whatnot where there really wasn't needed, apparently. And the racially explicit, satirical script about greedy boxing managers and the journalist played by Goldblum struggling to expose them, all cut down to a more palatable, easy to take in the 90s affair, But it all still works. The film was almost directed by Shelton himself, but he was busy with his other sports movies, So I guess the irony of a black director stepping in and giving a script written by two white guys enough flavor and its own identity is an achievement on its own. However, both Shelton and Hindra disowned the script. Hindra even wrote a part for himself to kind of pay homage to his Spinal Tap days, here being the racist trainer to Terry Conklin, a role which he was forced to audition for, a role that he didn't get. He was not good enough to play a role he wrote for himself, apparently. God damn. Hindra would go on to have a sordid life. You can look it up on your own if you choose. And with such a big cast and everything, there's a surprisingly quick pace going on in the film, and everybody really does get a chance to shine.
Call Mr. Roper, Mr. Roper.
Damon Wayans is great in this, man. He seems to be sleepwalking through it at times, but that's him. That's his performance. That's James Roper. He really doesn't give a fuck about anything that's happening. He even has this great line.
My blackness will beat that kid.
And you really do feel for his character, James Roper, kind of dealing with being a small fish in a huge pond, getting fucked over by his managers and stuff, never even realizing he's basically surrounded by predators. And he really plays this character with the right amount of swag, as most times he's completely immobile and still brings plenty of laughs, trust me. It really is the best showcase of his undeniable charisma on film. And for his foe, the not Irish Terry Conklin, he was, in my opinion, perfectly cast with Peter Berg, who at the time I knew from Shocker, and then with Very Bad Things, and he's gone on to have quite the career. I don't really need to talk about that. But damn it, he is hilarious in this movie. For the homeless.
I give my money to the homeless.
Good. Then if you take me up on my proposition and return to the ring, I guarantee that you will personally wipe out homelessness.
Oh, and there's this pretty cool concert scene, too, where Conklin's singing for this grunge band. Hey, look, it's that chick from Stoned Age.
I don't need my ego fed. I just wanna be like Ted. I just wanna be like Ted.
And apparently, Terry Conklin was the third member to Local H. I just want to pop in real quick and let you guys know that I am now selling t-shirts and stickers directly to the Staunch gang.
He won it!
The info's in the description.
You gonna get your shot? Huh? Didn't I tell you that? Man, hey, look, don't be putting you ain't my daddy, are you?
As for Sam Jackson, well, he's Sam Jackson, hell yeah. After seeing him as Jules, there's just a lingering, menacing aura that's stuck around in this film. And it really makes his Sultan character kind of feel larger than life. And while he's an obvious comparison to Don King, I think he definitely sets himself apart from that.
My father had told me that when the green grass starts growing, on the other side, then somebody got to cut the lawn.
Goldblum's part is obviously significantly trimmed, and to be honest, probably could have been completely cut out and wouldn't have made much of a difference with the final film.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
We reap what we sow.
We reap what we sow, yes, Mitch, yes. Yes, we do.
But that's one hell of a reason to hire someone like Jeff Goldblum, right? The guy can make any part highly watchable. Same to be said here, honestly. And there's some real laughs throughout. I mean, we have comedic powerhouses in the supporting cast like Cheech Marin, John motherfucking Lovitz, and early Jamie Foxx. I mean, will you?
Head look like a half-sucked milk dud. I swear. Boy, you're sorry. You're sorry. What you want to do?
But all performances and, praise aside, it doesn't change the fact that The Great White Hype was a complete dud upon release. Well, that is, except for the soundtrack, much like many other films of the time.
In fact, when it was over, I was startled. I thought, what are the credits doing on the screen? That's not the last scene. It can't be.
The conclusion of the picture isn't the best part of this picture, but there's a lot there that I was laughing at and thought was funny and smart.
I agree that maybe the film feels a bit rushed, chopped up, if you will, and some of the improv kind of takes you out of it, but overall, it really does work as a satire or spoof. And all the hype leading up to the big finale, well, it was just that. It was hype. I mean, perfectly satirizing films like Raging Bull and Rocky that all lead up to something bigger than itself. Here, it just kind of ends. That's the reality. These quick fights happen all the time, and they piss people off. And this time, it's the white guy getting taken out. And, it's business as usual, pulling the rug out from under the viewer at the end when Sam Jackson speaks directly to us, using his famous line from the movie that he uses when he is knowingly screwing someone over.
This is the beauty of America. May the best man win. I love it. And I love you.
I think this is definitely among Damon Wayans' best films, although it is indeed an ensemble. And here, Wayans had no involvement, outside of acting. Like, he didn't have anything to do with writing the film or anything like that. But it is a film that, again, perfectly showcases Wayans' other, non-slapstick talents. Next, into our journey into the Wayansverse, another film that I consider one of Wayans' best performances, and, ironically, another sports movie. Stay tuned, Staunch Gang. Please like this video, share, make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, follow me on Instagram, buy a t-shirt, blah, 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 blah.